Bonjour les étudiantes et bienvenue cette vidéo. Now, this time around we're going to talk about 3 new irregular verbs that you need to know, and they're ones that you'll learn about a lot more when we go into French too. So, without further ado, let's identify these verbs. So first off, we have vouloir, then we have pouvoir, et devoir. Now, even though these 3 are irregular, they aren't normal IR verbs, you will find that they are very similar to boire, to drink, from chapitre 6, in how they are conjugated. So, first off, vouloir, of course, is to want something. If you remember back to learning the term je voudrais, that is actually this verb right here. We have pouvoir, which is to be able to do something, or to be able to, and then just you add the infinitive to make it make sense. Et devoir is a term that you may have heard already. It is actually the term that they use in French for homework, but when you're using it as a verb, it means to have to do something, to be obligated to do, to owe, things like that. Now, going back to the fact that they all are conjugated like boire, let's go ahead and talk about conjugations. So I'm going to set up the je, tu, il, nous, vous, il over here. And we're just going to go the whole way across. And you're actually going to find that all of these are very similar. And like I said, very, very similar to boire as well. So first off, let's do vouloir. So the first one is je veux. Notice that we have an X at the end. The next one for tu is exactly the same. So tu veux avec un X or X. For il, elle, and on, c'est vous avec un T. Now with nous, this is where it's going to start looking very, very similar to boire. We're actually going to take the middle 2 vowels here and put them back in. So instead of having this EU, it's going to be OU. So it's nous voulons. Notice the OU, and notice we have the normal ONS. Vous is going to be the same with the OU, so voulez. So notice the OU and our regular EZ. Et voule. Because remember, we don't really say the ENT, but notice that with this one, we are returning to what we had up here with these. So it's very similar to boire. So let's say them all together real quick. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, il voule. Yeah, vous voulez is a lot of fun to say if you haven't figured that out already. All right, let's do pouvoir. All right, so just like over with vous, we're going to use EU in the middle. So it's going to be pou avec un X. Tu is going to be the same. Tu. And il, elle, on is vous avec un T. Then we have, with the nous, we're going to again add the OU in the middle. So it's going to look like this. Pouvons. Because notice we have the V here, so we're going to add that V back in, just like we did with the L over here. So nous pouvons. Then we have pouvez. Again, notice the OU. Et pouv, which is just like the others up here because it has the EU. And notice that we keep the V. Et voilà. So not too bad. Now let's go ahead and say those real quick. So je peux, tu peux, il peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils peuvent. Et voilà. Now devoir is actually going to look much more like boire than the others, because we're going to have an OI in the middle most of the time. So let's do it. So we have dois. So je dois, tu dois, il doit. Notice second te. These are S, that one's te. Then we are going to use the EV out of the middle here. So it's nous devons. Notice the E. Vous devez. There. And ils doivent. And notice we get to say that V, but we don't say the ENT. And it's just like these ones right up here. So let's go ahead and say those too. Je dois, tu dois, il doit, nous devons, vous devez, ils doivent. So now that we know how to conjugate them, let's talk about how to use them. First off, with vouloir, we can use it with a noun or an infinitive. So for example, je veux un café. I want un café, a coffee. Now notice that this is a noun and it follows directly after veux. Voilà. Now with the other example, we have je veux commander un café. I want to order a coffee. Notice that between vous and un café, our noun, we have an infinitive. Ici. So it can follow right after that. You can use that as well. So basically any infinitive or noun that makes sense that you would want, you can stick right in the sentence like that. Now with devoir, you can use it in many different ways. So basically you can use it with an infinitive or you can use other expressions with it. So basically anytime you're like, I have to, or I'm kind of obligated to, you can use this. So for example, je suis désolé, mais nous devons partir. So I'm sorry, but we have to leave. Now notice this is an infinitive. Ici, right here. And it can follow right after devoir, which in this case is conjugated to devons. So you can do that with pretty much anyone. You have to leave, you have to buy something, buy, acheter, could follow it. You can go all kinds of different directions with that. Now notice the next one is a little bit different. John est absent. So John is absent. Il doit être malade. So this is to be sick right here. So you notice that we have doit, which is another way of saying devoir. It's another conjugation. So it basically says, in English it would say he must be sick. In French it kind of is like he has to be sick, or that's the excuse, the reason for why he is absent. So again, not a direct translation, but you can see how it all ties together. And then the last one is pouvoir. This one we always combine with an infinitive. So for example, vous pouvez arriver à 3 heures. Can you arrive at 3 o'clock? Is basically what it says. So notice we have the pouvez, which is of course pouvoir conjugated, and then the very next word is an infinitive. So we have that following directly after that. Now, the cool thing, you can take these ideas and make all kinds of different sentences with them. So feel free to play around and have some fun with it. Et c'est tout. That's it. So if you have any questions or if you'd like any help, just let me know. Bonne journée.